Hi everyone, welcome to MetalNet TV. I am really excited today to bring you two members of Operation Mindcrime, which is Geoff Tate's band. Today we have Kieran and Alex with us. Before we start, I just want to remind you to subscribe to MetalNet TV. Make sure you hit that little notification bell so you'll be alerted to all episodes. And you can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Here we go. Hey Kieran and Alex, how are you doing?
Awesome. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. I'm doing really well. I'm excited to have you guys on. So thank you for being on Conversations with me.
Thank you for having us.
So I'm going to ask you a bunch of stuff, but I wanted to start with fun fact. Alex, you are a fellow Bostonian.
Yes, I am. And you
So
are.
that's right. I'm from Plymouth. And what
Yeah.
part of the state do you live in?
Oh, I live in Concord. Yeah.
Nice,
I'm
nice.
just Concord. Yeah.
Born and raised?
Born and raised. Well, that's complicated.
Okay.
Born, raised Australia. Now I live in Boston.
Oh, cool. So, but have you been here a good part of your life?
I'd say most of my life now. Yeah, I've been here, living here now for like the last 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So,
All
like
right.
Boston.
Very cool. Very cool. So hopefully we'll bump into each other when you're not on tour. And Kieran, you are from Scotland. What part of Scotland are you from?
In Glasgow, Scotland.
Nice, nice. And do you still live there, or you live here, or do you spend your time kind of all over the place?
I'm kind of all over the place, if I'm honest. I was just back in Glasgow though for like 3 weeks, seeing my family. I'd not been home in a really long time, so it was really nice to get back and see people. But I'm all over the place, like a
Yeah.
homeless pirate.
Oh,
You
no.
know?
It sounds like fun, though. I think it sounds like fun because you're touring and doing all kinds of cool things, which we're going to talk about today. So I wanted to start with, I kind of want to start with like probably the most fun thing, which is how do a guy from the Boston area, how do a guy from Concord and Glasgow end up in Geoff Tate's band?
Take it away. It's a long story. I joined Jeff's band because I went to the shortened versions. I went to Jeff's show, and I did some music, and I sent them their band. Didn't get into the country at the last minute. They did a visa issue, so I was the one that got the call for that. And then I started playing with Jeff. And then I went to Guitar Tech. How weird is this? I'm wearing the hoodie. I went to Guitar Tech. That's weird. I went to Guitar Tech on my time off for a band called Angra.
Mm-hmm.
And when I showed up, Alex was the sound engineer for Angra. And then we needed a sound engineer at the time with Jeff. So we got to use the sound engineer. And then I'm like, I don't want to kill him, so we can keep him around. and then I'm like, we can, he's an amazing guitar player as well. So it's just weird the way things work out. Oh yeah.
That is so funny. Okay, so Alex, and we'll talk a little bit more about this a little bit later, but you are front of house engineer in addition to being a musician, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was
so
very lucky. Got the chance to go to Berkeley when I was living in Boston.
Yeah.
From that, I met the guys who eventually led up to me meeting Kieran. So I've got the engineer under my belt as well, which is nice to have.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So so it was really kind of like right place, right time. And then it sounds like there was like a bond there as well of like really connecting and wanting to pull people in. Does that sound fair?
Really well on that tour. We clicked really well. I think we were the younger guys in the tour as well, the sort of two. So I mean, it was just it fit well. And then like when we were like, oh, is that we heard you play guitar, I was like, okay, like we can do something.
Cool, that's awesome. So I one thing I did want to talk about, I feel like you've been constantly on tour ever since like the world opened up. And you have some dates coming up as well. Is that the case for you most of the time? Are you guys like a heavily touring band, or do you take large like breaks to make music, to create new music?
We have had no time off in like the last stint was 9 months. Yeah, nine months. That was coming out here to record as well as going out on the tours and the backstage passes. They keep us busy. We're pretty much constantly touring, especially now with COVID. Like we had you had to take 2 years, and those dates just kept getting pushed. So
Yeah.
you know, now I think we're booked until. God,
I think we
don't
just
know.
finished our makeup dates.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, so now you're starting like
The next blog.
the
Yeah.
actual like what you would be doing now. Oh, that's amazing. Do you guys love touring? Is that like your emotionally like where you're at, or are you more about the studio?
That's a good question.
It is a good question. It's a good question.
I think
I've just spent a bit of time in the studio, so I'm really looking forward to this tour, getting back out there.
Mhm.
But I do like the variety. The variety is nice to be able to come home and do studio shit, and you know, it keeps me on my feet. You know,
I think I don't really like being in the same place for like a while. You know what I mean? I get sort of bored, so I quite like, you know, touring and, you know, that sort of lifestyle. I enjoy the studio time. I do enjoy that, but I like being in different countries and sort of the chaos, and you know, I love that.
That's awesome. And for everybody watching at home, Alex and Kieran are going to be joining me for an episode of MetalNet Bites, where we'll be talking about the backstage pass travel that Alex just referenced. So make sure you check that out. That will be coming out next week. But anyway, yeah, so it's interesting to hear, you know, different musicians, because you guys do everything, right? You're in the studio, you're on the road, and then you do, you know, stuff like this, interviews and that kind of thing. So it's always interesting to hear what people prefer. When you guys started your careers, or before you started, when you had this dream, I suppose, of being like a musician and that, what did you have in mind? Like, what were your hopes for your career? Like, Alex, did you want to be like a front of house engineer? Like, did you want to go that route, or were you really just thinking being on stage and being on the studio, like with your own music?
I think I started doing music shit when I was pretty young. Probably not as young as you, but like when I was about 8, I think. And I've always wanted to just do as much as I can. Like, I don't know. I would get bored if I was doing the same thing all the time. So that's why I get into to jump back and forth between studio work, guitar, singing, whatever. It's really cool and fun, and it does keep me on my toes and stuff. But since I was very young, I wanted to do as much as I can. And when I was really in like school for doing music and stuff, I felt like the studio path was going to be a big one for me.
Okay.
Because I have a lot of idols that are producers and stuff like that, and I think it's really cool that they could sit there, make a bunch of money in the studio, and then go back out and rock. And it's just, that's so cool to me.
Yeah. And how about you, Kieran? When you were sort of imagining what you would do with your music, how did you see your future?
Your answer was so much cooler than mine. I always wanted to be like Paul Stanley and Slash, and like, you know, I sort of I think I probably, if I'm honest, like the rock star thing more than when I was really young, and then you know, I loved Kiss and Motley Crue and stuff. So but I got a guitar. I'm probably the same as you, like 8, and then I got really into that, and then I found love for the guitar as well, and I was like, you know, I can actually do both of these. And I couldn't. I was a terrible singer, so I was like, I'm just gonna go with guitar. So I doubled down in that, and I think I'm doing what I imagined myself to be doing, you know, which I guess is cool.
That's amazing. And you both sing. I've heard both of you sing. When did you guys start? You said you were a terrible singer, but that's not true. But when did you both start singing, and when did you sort of decide that you were, in addition to playing guitar, also going to sing professionally?
I tried to sing. Like I am.
He does sing. Your voice has gotten amazing.
I appreciate that, brother. It's gotten better. When I first joined the band, like I was never. I just wasn't. I didn't know how to do it. You know, I could hold it. I'm still pitchy, but I tried singing when I was really young, and I couldn't do it. It was like bad. So I just stopped, and then when I joined Geoff's band, I started having, you know, I needed to do the harmonies, and Geoff would teach me a couple of things and be like, so now I can hold a tune, you know, but I'd like the way your voice, and it's not like not trying to suck your dick out, but like fucking, you've got a tone, you know. I don't have a tone. You've got like this growly. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I wish I was a singer.
A lot of it was like like recording and actually using my voice, and like you would with guitar, like I'm just starting to feel like a guitarist because I've spent a long time on the voice and I work my tits at this gig.
Yeah,
but
totally.
It like vocally, it's been something that I've just listened to a lot, you know, and that's what I would learn from it. I'd hear it. I know what I want to change about my voice, and that's how it kind of, for me, it evolved vocally.
So you started young, Alex, with the singing?
Yeah, I think I started guitar, a little bit of guitar and singing around the same time, around 8. And then I picked up, but guitar and singing was always like, I think, my number one.
He also plays trumpet.
Trombone.
Is that something you did in school when you were younger, or is that something you still pursue?
Yeah. I was big. I had a big jazz phase. I don't know. I liked playing trombone and playing big bands, bebop, and all that stuff. I like that.
So speaking of childhood, given where you guys were growing up and the time you were growing up in, what was the music that you were hearing around you that might have influenced you? Were you hearing a lot of rock and metal growing up?
Yeah, I definitely was. I you know, my mum and dad sort of, you know, they're into that music, you know, this sort of music, so they would always play it in the car and take me to shows and stuff. But I guess I never really listened to anything else, you know. But yeah, I had a lot of that around when I was growing up.
The metal stuff, like I actually found this on my own. My mom liked Duran Duran, my dad liked Pink Floyd. You know, I sort of found this stuff on my own. You know.
Yeah. So did you just hear, like, were other friends listening to it? Was it like online searches or something?
Yeah, the scene.
You know, I never had any like friends who were into the same type of music, and like that weren't like, you know, significantly older, like when I was growing up, you know. So
when you go to
maybe
shows,
it was different, and you know.
So wait, you were the youngest ones at shows, or?
Yeah, I was like this, you know, the 6-year-old at the Iron Maiden concert, you know, which is, you know, nice memories.
Yeah, definitely. So was that your first concert, Kieran, or was that one of your firsts?
My first concert was Joan Jett, Motorhead, and Alice Cooper.
Wow.
I think that's the one. My dad says we saw David Lee Roth at Universal when I was really young, but I don't remember that. I remember fucking, you know what I mean, Joan Jett, Motorhead, and
that's a badass
Alice Cooper. And
that
you know,
is
came so full circle. Like 6 months ago, we played the Monsters of Rock cruise supporting Alice Cooper, and I was like, that's you know, full circle.
That is phenomenal. That is phenomenal. And actually, I think I saw that post, Kieran. Is that the one where you wrote, "My music teacher told me I'd never amount to anything, and here I am"?
Probably, yeah.
No, that's phenomenal, though. Alex, what was your first concert?
Oof. It would have been some local, like my friend's hardcore show in Australia when I was living there.
Oh, okay.
And it's just like this silly little hardcore show with me and my friends that I loved that scene shit.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Australia, Austin, it was cool. And it was always that kind of metal show that we could go. I could have a mosh, go home, kind of broken.
That's amazing. When did you guys, were you guys Queensryche's fans or Geoff's fans growing up, or did that come a little bit later for you?
I was, yeah. Like my dad liked Queensryche, and you know, would play it in the car and stuff. There's a post I posted not too long ago, and it's a photo of me with my first guitar in a Queensryche t-shirt when I'm like,
oh,
that's a mad photo.
Which mad.
That's a mad photo.
So yeah, I was definitely. I wasn't, you know, I wasn't a mega. I didn't know every single song off every album, but I knew Queensryche, and I was a Queensryche fan. Oh, but I never asked you that. I never knew that.
I've heard of Queensryche before. I knew they were influential. I'd heard Silent Lucidity and I Don't Believe in Love. I just wasn't. I hadn't followed them so much. I really liked a lot of heavy, like death metal and that kind of the side of metal, you know. But the albums like Rage for Order, It's so sorry. Rage for Order. So cool.
Drinking
Yeah,
at 1
we are
o'clock in the
drinking.
afternoon.
Yeah, sorry, that's my bad. No, Rage for Order is such a proggy, out there album to me. That's so of music. So I was pleasantly surprised.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you leaned a little heavier, and Kieran, you leaned a little more kind of that like heavy rock, metal sort of stuff. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
How do you guys work together? Like as guitarists, as producers, especially in the studio. How do you guys? What's your kind of relationship like, and what's your work style like together?
It's one of my favorite things.
Oh, really? I was going to have a sarcastic answer. I was going to say acceptance and that. No, I love working with you, man. It's sick. I think we're both sort of open to taking. Like I like that none of us are precious with ideas. Like we're truly like for the better of the song or the better of the project, and both of us don't really mind doing shitty work as well. Like the menial work. So I think it's good. We're both very organized in the studio. Yeah. I think our ideas bounce fucking really well. There's some really cool shit. Yeah, there's some really cool stuff. So. And then we both know we're pretty decent engineers, so we can get through it well, and it sounds really nice, I always like the finished product, it's great.
That sounds. How long have the two of you been working together? How many years has it been?
It's been 4.5 years, I think. 4.5 years.
Oh, wow.
I think.
I feel like in talking to you guys that you guys are like have known each other a lot longer than like 4.5 years.
I feel like because we've been on the road for, it's 4.5 years.
Yeah, 4 years straight.
Yeah, it's consecutive,
the whole time.
And it's not, you got to be pretty close to being a tour bus. It's not, when you're living with somebody, working with somebody every night, you can't really afford to have, shit between each other, bad vibes. So yeah, I think it's, I want to fucking kill him 90% of the time. You know what I mean? You got on with it.
We don't not press each other's buttons. It happens. Like
when you're living in a bus. But I think that just gets, makes people closer as well. You have pack when you're traveling around.
Yeah.
It's family vibe.
Yeah.
Everyone clicks really well. And you learn who clicks and you keep them around. So, the family builds.
So when you guys push each other's buttons, is it intentionally or is it by accident?
100%. That's constantly trying to wind people up.
That's amazing.
I love her.
And is that sober or after you've had a few drinks?
All the time.
Constantly. When I see them in the beginning of a tour, they'll have something prepared.
Did we
prepared the last one?
When Alex showed up for one tour, and when he arrived, the rest of us convinced him that the tour had been cancelled, and showed up with his bag, just shit like that,
That's amazing. So let's just take a minute to talk about you know what, I skipped over something really important. Kieran, you said that Geoff showed you a few things vocally. What is that like? Like, he is literally one of the best singers of all time. That man has a voice on him. And I remember the first time I heard Queensryche, actually all of my friends, we were just like, holy, like that was just something different. It was like a phenomenon or something. Like, it, with other bands, there's people who love them, people who hate them and all that. Queensryche to me was one of those bands, and Geoff's voice was one of those voices that it was just like, you know what I mean? Like, we just couldn't even understand what was going on. So what was that like for you when he pulled you to the side or what have you and said, here's what you can do?
It's a lot of pressure and a lot of motivation at the same time. It's like where the first tour I did, we were doing Jet City acoustically, and I had to sing this harmony, and I knew I was fucking it up every night. And the third show in, at sound check, he goes, okay, everybody sing your parts individually, so I'm going to find out who it is. And I'm like, I knew it was coming, and I did my part, and it was so bad. And he was like, yeah, maybe don't do that. So, that was like, that's like fucking Jimi Hendrix telling you that, like, you can't play guitar. So, and then hired me. I'm like, okay, I need to put a bit of time into this and actually get better. And then, like simple things Geoff has shown me is really helped. But yeah, it's a lot of pressure to be good, you're singing up against.
Yeah, I would imagine. It's like the best person to learn from, but the most terrifying as well. That's awesome. So let's take a second to talk about some of your other projects. Alex, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Is it Lexi?
It is.
Lexi,
Yeah.
okay. So let's start with Lexi. Tell me about Lexi.
Lexi is my personal music. I like to write and produce and perform all my stuff as much as I can do. I want to try and be like jack of all trades and do all stuff myself. So for the last couple of albums, I've written, produced, mixed, mastered, and published 2 Lexi albums.
Nice.
One I just put out, Real.
It's fucking so sad.
It was
so fucking sad.
Writing that was a lot of fun. Really quite a lot of fun. And it's such a cool album. I think it's the first thing I've put out that I've been like, this fit the vision. This really ticks all the boxes. And I think it's a really cool album. And it's got a lot of really, really sort of grateful for how people think the album went.
That's awesome. I checked it out and I think it's fantastic. So I'm also going to link all of that below so that people can check it out. And can I just say as a side note, you have the best looking merch of anybody. Like, honestly, I was like, I want to know who designs the merch. Wait, who designs it? Who designs it?
I do it. It's all Hart. I always thought it was cool that I could make the whole vibe match, the music, the look.
It totally does. I mean, it is so on point. It's beautiful to look at. And then when you've heard the music, like, it all makes sense. So I'm gonna have to talk to you at some point about Metal Net merch, because I saw that and I was like, I need to know who's on that. It's really beautiful stuff.
Thank you very, very much.
So you've been touring like crazy and you have more dates coming up. You said you're booked already, and I saw some dates for December. Where are you guys going to be touring in the next few months?
Well, all over the place. We've got America coming up, doing West Coast. That's in 2 weeks' time. We start that through December. January, you get South America.
You're going to South America.
That'll be sick. And then where do we go from there?
Scandinavia. There's another Scandinavia tour.
Yeah, all over the place.
And it's not Walter or Dario on that.
I think Walter and Dario or their band Headless are going to be on.
Oh, so Headless is on tour, so we'll get to see you guys if we're in Europe.
If anywhere that you are, we will be there. We're going everywhere.
That's awesome. Alex, do you know if you're hitting Boston again?
Not for Christmas, that's for sure. I'm not sure when the US tour that we're doing that we hit Boston. I know it's coming up, but I'm not sure when it is.
Yeah, because I know you guys were here not that long ago. Because you had mentioned that earlier too. You weren't. Yeah, but I'm hoping you'll hit Boston. I'm sure you are too. Being
if I had to guess, I'd say end of next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the new date's coming out. Keep my eye
out.
Yeah.
Maybe Worcester. Maybe Derry.
Okay.
Like Tupelo, that.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So I want to mention that you guys, you both have websites, Instagram, and all that. I'm going to list everything below so people can find you. Definitely check out Alex's merch and comment below if you think it's as amazing as I do. But yeah, also go to, Geoff's site, which again, I'll post everything below for tour dates so we can figure out when you guys are going to be closest to us. And most importantly, tune in next week when Kieran and Alex are going to be joining me on an episode of Metal Bites and talking about a really cool travel experience with them and with Geoff. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I really enjoyed hanging out with you.
You too. Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed today's conversation with Alex and Kieran. Make sure you're subscribed, following me everywhere, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. But most importantly, have a great week and take care. Much respect.